When we talked on the phone, you were talking about when you got to Nashville.
Yes, we got to Nashville. We went the funeral procession, or the procession at that point, because we didn't have David, went straight out to the freight area where we picked him up at Plainside. We drove out in heavy rain. We weren't blessed by good weather. Suddenly, there was a huge downpour, but we got to Plainside. The Marines then, along with assistance from the airline, of course, unloaded David and then loaded him into the hearse. It was a big teary time for all of us, extremely emotional, and of course for everybody it was like he's been gone from us all this past week, and now we've got him back. And so, and then his children were like, my daddy's in that box. Anyway, because it's taking them a while to comprehend what's gone on, and of course it's been this week that he's been gone, and now we have him back.
How do you explain to children what happened?
It's very difficult. I think his youngest was asking, and his mother said a bad man killed his daddy, and that's what we had to say. And we had to say that David's never coming back. It's very final, and he's not coming back. So the children know. His children are 7 and 10, and they're coming to grips. His 10-year-old daughter sat between my wife and I on the way back from Nashville, and I think she got a more and more solid look as we drove back. Realized she's probably starting to realize what's actually happened.
Is she the oldest?
Yeah, the oldest.
She's the big sister?
She's the big sister.
And we mentioned on the phone, you were talking about the support from Nashville all the way to Chattanooga, and it really amazed me.
We were absolutely stunned. Of course, the Chattanooga Police Department escorted us in force. Many of them in front and back of our caravan. There were a lot of cars going down. A lot of family went down to get David, and they escorted us all the way there and back. Coming back, every bridge along the way was lined with people. And of course, these are people out in the middle of the highway between here and between Chattanooga and Tennessee. They're not near so connected to this as the Chattanooga area is, but they were out in force. A lot of people saluting and holding flags. There were people along the sides of the road. We were stunned. And of course, as we pulled here into Chattanooga, in the funeral home, the procession was intentionally just a little bit. We sort of took the back route in to kind of avoid part of town, some traffic, and the route I think has been publicized that we'll take tomorrow, and so tomorrow when people would come out, but we were trying to be able to get quietly into the funeral home tonight, more private time tonight. But we saw a lot of people out, and obviously some people knew, a lot of young boys out, because I think people know that David was also an Eagle Scout. And did a little bit. I shouldn't say did a little bit. He was doing what he could because he has a 7-year-old son that's become a tiger cub, and he said he'd been active with that. So there's a recognition that he's a scout.
How did you find out?
I found out basically by the way most of America found out, by catching it on the news. My daughter called me from California. She was in a gym. Said, "David's okay, isn't he?" And I said, "What?" I said, "Sure, David's okay." And then she says, "Well, there's a shooting in Chattanooga." And anyway, she's already described things back and forth, and we started to check stories back and forth, and ended up watching the story in the afternoon. And I tried to call David and didn't get anything. But I know that when things like this happen, they often close down where they won't talk to anybody. And then I talked to his wife. Various family members were calling each other, trying to figure it out. And we'd probably heard the words that we should have known earlier, but we were denying it to ourselves. By 3 o'clock, though, we were getting pretty certain that the news was bad, and we were telling ourselves we had to be prepared for the news. We didn't get the official word until about a little after 7 o'clock Thursday evening. But that's when the Marine Corps could officially get to us, was about 7 o'clock in the evening. They got to me a little later, but I already knew because of course I talked to the other members of the family. Marine Corps attempted to notify us, all of the immediate family, simultaneously, but they missed me because the last records were showing my old address, which is not that new, and nobody thought to update that because just didn't expect that. It wasn't like David was in a war zone.
Were you surprised? Because Chattanooga is such a small, quiet, friendly Southern kind of town, and we're all thinking, how did this happen here? What are your thoughts on it happening here?
Well, I'll say that number one, of course, we've been to the thing there at Lee Highway, and I've talked to police and the mayor and the chief of police, and we've talked to some people. We ran into some people from Teen Challenge, just a little thing that we ran into, and it sunk into us quickly that Chattanooga was injured and hurt and insulted deeply by having this thing happen on its doorstep. I would say that the Marines assigned here, it's a active combat unit, but nevertheless a reserve unit. It's a little quieter assignment for some of these men that were assigned there. The gunnery sergeant, my son's staff sergeant David Wyatt, and Sergeant Holmquist had all served combat tours, and of course no less the Lance Corporal Skip. Yes, they had all. None of them expected that this was a dangerous assignment. All of these men were prepared to go do what they have to in war, but here in Chattanooga, they expected to be able to do training and community service and other work but not feel like they were in a war zone. So it was deep shock to all of us and all of their families as well.
My mom has always said, and even in this particular case, and I talked to her last night, and she said it's not the natural order of things to be a parent who loses a child. Any parent knows the word that you don't want to have to bury a child. We're supposed to go first, not our children. It's a curse. It's all of our curse to lose a child. And all of these young men, the 4 Marines and their shipmate, and the parents and families of these men have all taken a deep loss. None of them expected this to happen here in Chattanooga. He is wearing this oldest that doors is crazy. Oldest, middle, how many children do you have?
He's my oldest son. He has 2 older daughters, and he has 2 younger brothers.
And certainly you're proud of him.
I'm proud of them all. And I'm proud of all of the 5 men who gave their lives here last week. I'm proud of them as an American, and proud that I know that all of those men, to the last second of their life, did their duty, did their jobs to the best of their ability, and gave their lives. They died willingly, but of course they were not happy. We're all sad for their loss.
This story obviously has touched Chattanooga, Tennessee, the United States, and even the world.
Yes.
For the people who want to know more about you, want to know more about your son, what do you tell everybody who's listening?
I would say that my son was a good father. He was a good husband. He was a wonderful son. He was a good Marine. He was a good scout. He was proud to serve his country. He was proud to serve his community, and most especially proud to serve his family. And we shall all miss him deeply.
And he was your Marine?
He was my Marine. I actually have a thing that sits on my desk that with his picture that says "My Marine."
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you care to say?
No, that's enough. I think we've said enough.
All right, we'll just put this down. We'll just get some stuff of us talking with you. And I am so sorry.
Thank you.
I'm really sorry. Stupid question, but how's the rest of your family? I would imagine mention that his mom's not too well.
What we did a bit, we really wasn't scheduled, but the very immediate family did a viewing tonight. It was really an informal schedule for tomorrow, and but we decided we had the time. And first, we were just his mother and I, and his wife were going, and then we thought, no, we should bring in the brothers and sisters and some other parts of the family. And anyway, we did that, and it was a pretty emotional time. It was, I would say it's extremely emotional time. Thank you.
I feel, and I don't know. I mean, you're helping. I don't know about you with this talking, but it's helping me heal. And I never knew him. I just know the stories and see the agony, and it's just I can't shake it, and I don't know why. I guess you got a terrorist.
Yeah,
I think 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah, terrorists live 5 minutes from your house. I mean, the real terrorist. I mean, I call him a terrorist. I know that they hadn't formally called this person a terrorist. By the way, I will not say his name. I will not honor that person by saying his name. So the news people and everybody, FBI, all those that have to can, but I will not say that name.